Okay, welcome to part 6 of the Philco 52-T1802. And if you've been watching the other parts of this restoration series on the Philco 1802, you'll soon recognize that that is not a Philco 1802. That is a cabinet that I have sitting around that has a known good picture tube. This is actually the Philco 1802, and as you can see, I have the chassis taken out of the 1802 and I have it installed into this Philco cabinet. And the reason is, if you go back to part 5, you know that I did a power up with this chassis after restoration, and we got no sound, no raster, no picture at all. So after doing voltages and then also trying a different chassis in the same set that's identical, I got the same result. I was going to wait till I got my Philco 2151 cabinet back and test this chassis on that tube in that set, and I got the realizing the other day I have a known good tube and yoke here. So I went ahead and popped this chassis in here just for testing, and I went ahead and tried it, and I'll go ahead and turn the set on for you. I've got a signal hooked up to it, but from the last video on part 5 when we did a power up, it appears that this chassis is stable. It's doing what it's supposed to do, so we should get a picture associated with this chassis. And now that it's up and running, we'll come up here and I can show you that yes, in fact, we are. So we have a picture. Let me get here in a better spot so you can take a look at it. We've got brightness control, contrast, and we've got horizontal and vertical lock. Now you will notice that there's some vertical linearity issue here. These guys are stretched. I think I know what that is, and on the last chassis that I worked on for the 2151, it came down to the fact that there were some bad pots on the back controls, which needed to be changed. Right here, I ended up changing both the vertical linearity and the width pot. It had the exact same symptoms, so I'm pretty sure that that's the same problem. The only other thing it could be is a coupling cap. And I'll double check that, but I went through that on the horizontal and vertical on restoration, and I don't think that's a problem. I think it'll be very simply changing these two pots out and we'll be good. Now, you may have noticed there's no sound, and I had no sound in the regular cabinet. So I went to my schematic and just wanted to verify that. The first place I probably need to look is the 6V6GT audio output tube, which I have a ton of these. Here's one right here. And I thought, well, I'll change it out. Well, funny I should say that, because if you look right here, right behind, and the sound is, there's no audio output tube in there. So, dummy mistake. So what I'm going to do is turn the camera off and pop this tube in there and see if that was more than likely the problem. Okay, be right back. Okay, now after that bonehead move, I have the audio output tube in the set. Let's power it up and see if possibly we could get some sound. the tubes going. And we got video up. Just going to verify that the volume's actually turned up. It doesn't look like we're getting sound yet. Well, what do you know? It's not strong sound, but we're getting some sound. So that's a good sign. It's not real good sound, but also I need to go through and check all the tubes on the RF side of the duplex chassis. But just a simple rookie mistake of when repopulating the tubes on this RF chassis, I very simply forgot to put the 6v6 in there. So that's a simple mistake. So as I suspected, leaving off on the last 1802 video that I did, I suspected I had a problem with this picture tube and this yoke. And you know, the more I look at this yoke, there is a lot of rust in there. So it could be that very possible I have a bad yoke, or I've got a bad connection on the socket, these socket pins. So my next step will be to pull this back out. I'm gonna have to take that yoke out, take a look at it. There could be a bad connection in there. See how bad this rust is inside of it. The ring test on it shows that this thing's okay, but I'll do an ohm test on it and get it out and look at it and see if I can narrow down the problem. Because I'd really like to get that chassis in this set and get this set playing. It should play very well. That picture tube tests really strong. Okay, after messing with the controls a little bit, got this picture cleaned up. I'm not sure how well this is coming out on the camera, but not a bad picture on the that the chassis is producing. So looks like we're in good shape. It's off a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about getting it perfectly adjusted to this picture tube, because this is not the picture tube I intend, or the cabinet I intend to use with this chassis. But I just wanted to verify what I thought I knew from part 5, that the problem had to be in the picture tube or the yoke of the 1802. And got some sound. I still think I got a weak audio output tube, or maybe possibly another some weak tubes in the IF section, but it's not doing too bad. I'll go through those, comb through those, and make sure I got strong tubes. I guess this was a good exercise because I just make sure I had all the tubes, because I wasn't getting any sound before. And it's just simply because I failed to put the audio output tube in. So the next step will be to get the picture tube out of the cabinet of the 1802 model and take a look at the yoke and pull this chassis out until I can figure out what's going on with that. Okay, now I have got my blonder tongue modulator going, and I'm now transmitting over the air, where I can receive signals over the air for the chassis, the 1802 chassis. And here's the result that we're getting. Sound is good. Picture's pretty good. Pretty close to the modulator, so getting a little shake and wiggle, but it's definitely actually a better picture than the feed directly in from the VCR. So looks like this chassis working okay. So I'm gonna pull it out of this set and then go to work on either the yoke or the picture tube for the cabinet that it actually is supposed to go into. Here's the antenna that I'm using. So you can see I'm only about 3 feet away from the transmitter. But tuner and sound and everything seems to be fine.